Okay, today is our regular meeting for the Kingsburg Community Service Commission. It's Wednesday, April 22nd. We're going to call our meeting to order at 5:33. Um, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Let's see, presentation and informational reports. We don't have any. Public comment. Provides an opportunity for members of the public to address the commissioners on items of interest to the public within the commissioner's jurisdiction and which are not already on the agenda this evening. It is a policy of the commission not to answer questions impromptu. Speakers should limit their comments to not more than 3 minutes. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the board as each item is brought for discussion. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Okay, so it brings us to our regular calendar. Item number 1, approve the minutes from our January 28th, 2026 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve those? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, it brings us to item number 2, which is the Kingsburg Parks Master Plan Update and Review. And I'll turn this over to our Community Service Director, Adam.
All right, well, good evening, Chairperson and Commissioners. So for tonight's agenda, or the bulk of tonight's discussion, is going to be about the Kingsburg's Park and Recreation Master Plan. Just briefly, this was initiated back in 2024, 2025, where we started the process to engage residents, community leaders about updating a parks master plan for the city of Kingsburg. The last one that was updated was in 2002. So it's been quite a while. The process is in its complete stages. Tonight, we're going to do kind of like a final review of some of the major areas in the Parks Master Plan that was released last week. And as long as everything seems to be appropriate and there are no major changes or requests, then tonight you guys will make a motion to approve it so that we can send it to council. Our agreement with the Fresno State group is to get this completed by the end of May, so we have till May 31st. So we're right at the end of it. We've done some preliminary reviews, and everything looks like it's decent enough. But we'll go over some stuff tonight, and if you catch anything, we could definitely red flag it and then approve it with those adjustments. So. With that, Carol does have it on there. You do have it printed in front of you. Obviously, the first couple of pages, do you have yeah, can I do the scroll? I mean, that might help. So I could. Oh. Oh, it's yours. Okay. 2 ends or just the one? Diana. I don't think it's just the one. Okay, just one. Okay, so it's obviously the first. Okay, no, that's okay. Everyone else's name correct? Okay. All the nameplates wrong. Noted. Okay, page 2 is just the table of contents, pretty much. We're going to go directly to the executive summary. Purpose and process. The master plan serves as the city of Kingsburg's roadmap for the next decade of park and recreation investment, community values, demographic trends, and a rigorous needs assessment. The plan aligns with best practices, guidances from the Trust of Public Land and Sustainable Park and Recreation Community Initiative, and that is essentially the group that we used to put this together. Community-led priorities, survey responses. So this goes to the 600 responses to the surveys that we sent out last summer. So it does a breakdown in some of the percentages regarding restrooms, open spaces, and just the feedback in general. Goes over a vision. Kingsburg will cultivate a welcoming, inclusive, and sustainable park system that fosters health, joy, and community pride. Then to elaborate on key goals, for this process, and essentially it's an improved restroom availability, shades, seating, play equipment across all parks, diversify amenities by adding splash pads. So essentially all the responses that kind of came in from the community and any feedback that came in from the commission regarding what we'd like to see in Kingsburg parks going forward. There's this one. And feel free to stop me if something comes out. Major recommendations you'll find on page 5. Plan calls for near-term investments in restrooms, shade structures, picnic shelters, and walkway repairs. And then it calls out some of the particular ones like Memorial Park and older playgrounds or neighborhood parks. Our priority is creating, go ahead.
I'm looking at parks by parks and Beaver.
Uh-huh.
Where it says Irving Park and Park. Is that a typo?
Yeah, it's missing a name. You're just like, hold on. Do you want this one? Stacy didn't come. No, here you go. Oh. No, that's okay. Page 6, introduction. A park and recreation master plan is a dynamic document that focuses on the community's future, including short, medium, and long-term range actions and implementation strategies. The Parks and Recreation Master Plan has 5 distinct purposes, and those were highlighted by the group that put this together and goals set by this commission. To serve as the city's Park and Recreation Master Plan for communicating with the California State Parks and Recreation Department, to be used as a guide and document for obtaining grants and assistance, to serve as a decision-making guide for the city of Kingsburg's planning, parks, and recreation services, to identify needs and opportunities for service delivery within this area, and to recommend and prioritize actions or implement strategies for the city. Community profile is really just a breakdown of information that this group collected on Kingsburg. So some of the information they gathered from online. So some of it might be, not specific. So maybe might be able to catch something, Chris, on here that might not be as accurate. But from what I saw in review, majority of it seemed pretty accurate, especially when it refers to like census data. Historical background you'll find on the next page. Page 9 and 10. You have essentially just more demographic information, local economy and major industries found within the city, economic development and incentives. And then it even goes into detail on specific events or special holiday type events that are related to Kingsburg. And a lot of that, again, was generated from what was found online, and the Fresno State students that came and did just kind of preliminary information on the city, so they can include it in this master plan. Pages 11 and 12, you'll notice that it talks about key attractions and points of interest that you find within the city. It does list like the historical park, the Kings River, and even goes as far enough to say that Kings Canyon, Sequoia, and Yosemite National Parks are in the respective area of the city of Kingsburg. Parks and Recreation. This was where you'll find your actual list of parks, city parks within the city. There are technically 12 green space parks, 13 if you add the swim complex. I did notice Summerlin is missing on the list, so that's already been highlighted. It does give you kind of a general location and then the amenities that you would find at those parks. Page 12 concludes with a general summary of Kingsburg. And then essentially a list of the references where all the information was pulled for this portion of the document. Page 14, you'll see information related to the commission. So this is essentially specific for your group. Just including with all the responsibilities and duties of the Community Services Commission, vary according by the needs of the community. But this is the governing body that essentially oversees Parks and Recreation. And it would be this group that essentially oversees the approval of this document. It does have certain community services commissioner or commission goals on page 15. Relatively vague or general. So I don't know if there's anything in specific that you want changed on that list, or essentially it's just general park improvement, shade structures and play equipment updates, general support of the facility, just general facilities, restrooms and security systems, pool showers. I think that was an older project, but I don't know why it stayed on there. So it is essentially a project we could potentially be looking at because the pool showers are old and we do need to focus on some of that area at the swim complex. So, and then items for the commission, project fundraising, improve the information available to the citizens regarding city facilities, and then recruiting volunteers for projects. If those are agreeable, we'll continue. Page 6, go ahead.
Under the page 15, under the community service goals. We talked about making things inclusive. Is that part of the general park improvements?
Yeah, so we could classify it as that. We could call it out and add it as another item. The majority, like I said, the majority of the information came from that community meeting that we held in-house here, and then the responses they received from online.
Right.
And then when this initially went out to the commissioners, you guys had an opportunity to send in feedback. And that was also used to just change the document. Yeah, any specific wording or any specific?
I mean, we could pull from, I just read it. Sorry, give me a second here. Page was it?
Is that in the vision? On page 4?
Said something about wheelchair access, stroller access. Oh, yeah, right. Number 4, page 4, number 3, under key goals. More equity and accessibility. Equity and accessibility.
And you'd like to see that under renovation projects or just items for the commission? Do you think it fits best under? I think items for the commission would be where it would fit.
Under the renovation.
Oh, okay.
I mean, or stuff set to general park.
Okay, so general park improvements promote equity and accessibility. Okay. Any other comments? All right, let's continue. Page 16, purpose of the plan. We went over the first portion, the planning process. So this kind of gives a breakdown, like I said, the distribution of information in 2024, the 600 responses that provided the majority of the information, the stakeholders meetings that we had in person with all invited groups, going down to these parks and taking inventory and site assessments, needs analysis and benchmarking, and then obviously the drafting review synchronizing this information so that we can get it ready, to get an actual plan adopted by council. The next couple of pages will be a breakdown of just those specific things. So it starts with the survey highlights. It does give you some more relative information on percentages, satisfaction levels, desired features. Under desired features, residents most wanted additional walking and biking trails, splash pads, and water play areas, expanded picnic shelters, sports courts, and nature observation areas. It does call out restrooms, as only 24% of respondents that said they were very satisfied. So essentially kind of gave direction for Public Works to say, hey, this is, of all the respondents, maintenance and upkeep is definitely something to keep an eye out for. So that'll help within their department to see that, make sure they're meeting the needs of the community. Page 18, it goes over goals and objectives. And then it kind of has a little bit of a breakdown. First one being enhance infrastructure and amenities, restroom availability, and then it kind of calls out provide restrooms at Memorial Park, Downtown Park, and Summerlin Park, establish maintenance standards and monitor supplies. Obviously, we know those parks already have restrooms, but I think the focus is on the maintenance of those. Shade and seating to install shade structures over playgrounds and picnic areas in all older parks. And then obviously a standard for all new parks coming in. Upgrade play equipment, replace wood chips and with rubber surfacing, which was the pour and play, which is now considered standard for the city. So we'll essentially have to focus on that for like the community parks where Memorial and Downtown don't have it yet. Everyone doing okay so far? If I miss anything, just let me know. Okay, it's it's a 91-page document, and I was just going to hit the main points of it so that we make sure that you're agreeable to the majority of the information that you'll find in this document. And page 19 and 20, obviously it goes over enrich programming and partnerships. Again, just more information that was gathered. Ensure sustainable management of the facilities and talks about safety. To collaborate with law enforcement and social services to address homelessness issues in the event that becomes an issue. Monitoring and evaluation, conduct biannual community satisfaction surveys. Obviously, just keeping track of the information that was gathered and just making sure that we're staying in line with what the community is asking for. Park 21 is park standards. So it does cite some information from the National Recreation and Parks Association. 10 acres per 1,000 people is essentially the standard. It does do a breakdown of what park spaces categorize. So you'll have mini ponding basin parks, neighborhood parks, community parks, special use parks, and open lands. And again, it's just the standard from the National Recreation and Parks Association of what those specify as, so that people can kind of narrow down what it is we actually provide and how many of each that we actually have. So like Athwell Park is a larger park, but it's still within a neighborhood, so it's not necessarily a community park. We've got the two right now, which would be Downtown and Memorial. Excuse me. Okay, page 24 was a little bit of an update for us. This is actually a new map that hasn't been released in the general plan just yet. So the general plan had an older map, but it didn't list all of the 12 parks. So we did have to go in there and go onto the GIS system and actually update it. So this map actually has all of the parks. You'll notice the green splotch areas are your parks within the city limits. Like I said, there are 12 of them. It does list the historical park on here, even though it's not technically a city park, but it can be found on here. And then that correlates with page 25, where it essentially talks about low density residency areas, high density areas, city limits. It just gives the information that, again, correlates with that map. Follow the page. From page 26 to about 44-ish, you're going to realize this information is pulled directly from the general plan, or these are the general plan elements. So not a lot of information to review here because it is part of a different plan. So it's nothing that we've changed. We've just added it into this document so that you can find them together. And essentially it talks about growth management, circulation and active transportation routes. Again, all of this is essentially just general plan information that we felt would correlate well with the document. So, and this was adopted a couple months ago. Yeah, not too long ago by council. Let's go back. What's this one? Page. Okay, so page 37, it talks about the breakdown of the actual parks itself, park facilities and recommendations. And so this kind of gives more of a, I guess, a general idea of what's being requested for each of these park locations. Starts off with Bicentennial Park. And then obviously the recommendations came from the surveys and just the responses. So whether you as a commission agree with them, but this is essentially what is being asked for or saying that we should include when focusing on these parks in the future. You'll see the inclusive playground servicing and equipment, walking paths and lighting, interpretive signage and maybe public art. And again, these are specific to those park locations. Memorial Park, we've discussed and we'll continue to discuss about the master plan redesign, what that looks like for Memorial Park. That was a main focus that came out. Restrooms and concession areas, potentially splash pad and play areas and a fitness loop, or we would consider like a walking track around the entire park, so that it becomes more accessible. Downtown park, it talks about a tot lot or gating area that's technically considered a tot lot, but it's just missing the gate portions. Community garden, event infrastructure, which would be important for like the Swedish festival, where it talks about maybe a small stage area for concerts, farmers market, and those type of events at downtown park. Summerlin Park, which is that new one on the Tulare County side of town, where it talks about, potentially adding restrooms and shade structures. The pool is listed. And then you'll just see like the newer parks, Viking Park, Nelson Park, Heritage. I did have a concern with Erling Park. I didn't know if we wanted to leave it in here. It talks about recommendations. This is page 41. Recommendation improvements, shade and seating, install trees, small shade structures or shelters and benches. I think I'm fine with that. Multi-use courts, add basketball and pickleball courts to increase activity options. I don't see that as something maybe that we should be recommending for Erling Park because of its current design and the neighborhood surrounding it. I don't think that would be something that we could potentially advocate for. But again, it's up to the commission if you guys want to leave it on there. We've just had issues in the past with that park, just because, again, the neighborhood that it's in and what that area would like to see what the park is going to be used for. So I'll leave that up to you if we should just leave the multi-use thing in there or just scratch it out. What does the commission feel?
I don't, yeah, I don't think even just kind of the shape and kind of just seeing how it's used. I think like the community garden or the shade and the seating. I mean, my time when I kind of am in that area and kind of see and talk to people, seems like, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say no on the multi-use.
Yeah, I don't think that area would be for that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, if you guys are fine with it, I'm fine with it. I don't want to recommend something and then we have to backtrack and say, oh, well, this was in the commission's hands and they said yes. Okay, dog park, not too much on there. It's a newer thing. It does talk about the gaps in the fencing for small dogs to escape, and that is still technically something we're addressing. So that will stay. And then the swim complex. Oh, my hands up. I just realized the swim complex is on here twice. Okay. Page 43 and 44, you kind of see just a general breakdown. This is information just regarding city and other surrounding sister cities or other areas. So it kind of gives you a breakdown on population sizes for other cities, other programs that other cities are providing. So kind of just gives you a side by side on what we are doing, what we could be doing, what other cities are potentially doing. And so that's definitely good for grant information down the road, submitting stuff to the state, more areas that we can improve down the road. We did. Right now, we're in the works of getting a youth commissioner back to this commission. We used to have two that would sit on here, and as the municipal code reads, there's still two open spots. But it's up to the administration of the high school to appoint those two. So I think it's just been a lack because of change in admin that it's kind of fallen through. So we do have an interested student that would like to sit on the commission. So she's currently going through the process to see if she qualifies and if they will give her the nomination. So yeah, yep. Okay. 45 and 46, just a needs assessment, needs analysis and benchmarking. It's all pretty much the same information. On 46, you'll see suggested implementation matrix. So it talks about the number of years and kind of focusing on essentially between a 1 to 7 year plan when these things should be addressed or at least focused on. Mhm. That'll take us to page 49 and 50. 49, just the references and the information that was gathered, and then 50, the technical appendices. It does have a map on page 51. Again, that's from the general plan. You'll notice it's different from the first map, but it's again, because it's part of the general plan, it stays in there. Page 52, you'll see a breakdown of the community services department. It did list everyone's names at one point, but we had them remove all of the names, so it just shows down the positions and what the department looks like. Page 53, 54, all information pulled from the general plan, talking about the Fresno County Regional Active Transportation Plan. Number of sidewalks in miles, bike lanes. Page 54 is essentially the map of those. Walkways, sidewalks, shared use spaces. 55 and 56, again, just the transportation, talks about biking paths. Maintenance of that infrastructure. Again, all part of the general plan, so it's nothing that we are changing or adjusting. Okay. And then to page 72. 72 to the end of it is essentially the community needs assessment results. So again, we talked about those surveys for the 600, and these are the responses. So we're going to include them in here so that if anyone ever has a question on where the information was pulled or what residents had to say, we're as transparent as possible. All the information's on here, and it kind of gives them a more in-depth of what that process looked like and some of the responses. And some of the responses were open-ended, so if they had a general comment that you pull it from here. So again, just all useful information. Essentially, this is going to bring us forward for at least the next 5 to 10 years, maybe longer, depending on how long it takes for us to update the master plan again. But again, for grant information that's coming forward, we're submitting stuff to the state, and then we'll have that. And then, of course, with the new housing developments coming in, and new developments or just community parks, these will be essentially the guidelines and the standards that we use to kind of help navigate through that. So yeah, I'm more than happy to take more time or answer any more questions that you might have. Again, the intent really for this meeting is to kind of just make sure that everyone's in agreement with the document. If there's anything we need to call out other than those adjustments that we made, we make them tonight. If not, then the idea is to get you to approve it so that we can get it ready to present to council in May and then have it adopted so that we can go forward. There are a couple of grants from the state that we need to be working on that are due in September, and this process to be complete first so that we can move on going forward. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, but that'll conclude it for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Do we have any comments?
I was trying to see, there were 600 roughly people. So 0.5% of the population responded. Did I do my math right?
Actually quite high
Usually they shoot from 300 to 400, give or take.
for a city of our size.
For a city of
right?
our size.
Yeah, so we doubled it.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
Again, just trying to get at least a snippet of the demographics, and it really depends on when they submit the survey, if they're willing to put their information in, so we can kind of see that about a gamut of, of respondents, and not necessarily, just the high school, but just, kids under the age of.
Yeah.
So that helps a lot, especially when they kind of give us that.
Well, my husband knew he had to respond, so I'm just telling you. My daughter too.
So, but I did get it done, so.
Yeah.
Well, any other comments? Anything? No? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve this master plan? Okay, and how do we do it?
Second it?
Do we second it?
Second.
Okay. Yay. All in favor? Aye. It's
Aye.
everybody. Awesome. Thank you guys for all the work on this. It's been a while. I know everybody looking at it. Okay, so the next item on our agenda, number 3, upcoming Proposition 668 Phase 5 grant cycle. Now send it back to Adam.
This will be short too, but this is, so right now we are in the window. We just got an email last week from the state. The grant cycle for Prop 68, which is where we received the money for the dog park, is doing an additional cycle. And I think it's 188 million that's on the table. But it's essentially for community projects, either creating new spaces or renovating old spaces. And so we have an opportunity now that the master plan is set. hopefully council says yes and we can go forward. What essentially are the priorities to this commission and some application ideas that we might submit for this grant cycle. I know in the past we talked about Memorial Park and we talked about inclusive play. Essentially, we could focus on a lot of different areas, but I'll leave it to the commission so that we can go from there.
Memorial Park popped into my head, because that's a pretty big grant and that's a pretty big park. And I think that park really serves the community quite a bit. So yeah, I think Memorial Park.
Okay.
And kind of redoing all of that.
Okay, so with that direction, I was kind of hoping that was the direction we're going to go. The process will essentially be once the application gets sent out to the state departments. So right now, there's no application that's been released. There's some guidance on what we've used in the past. So I'll start working on that. Essentially to go forward, it's conducting community meetings, getting kind of a spec of what the project will look like, and then get a cost estimate. So get all that on the table now so that we can start working on the ground or foundation of this project. The big pool will be community meetings, getting people to come in and respond and say what they want to see. I know Chris had mentioned a while back about like handicap seating, right? Or cemented areas for the band concerts, or shaded areas for the band concert benches. I know we've talked about, a walk around or loop around Memorial Park, inclusive play, removing the old playground and just putting something bigger and nicer out there. I know the restrooms are new, but it's essentially those types of things that we want to see, just the same way we did with the dog park, kind of getting those ideas and then putting all that together. And so then that will be the focus for that project. And then we'll meet again in May and hopefully have more information for you guys about that. So.
Awesome. I think that's
I
exciting.
have a question, Adam. So do we need to show that we've done community meetings, or can we do like outreach at like Swedish Festival or?
So all of that will be included, and we can go back as far as 2024.
Oh, okay.
Is what I was reading the guidelines to be. So if we've had meetings from that going forward about this specific project, or just a project that might have been would have mentioned this in that portion of time. I know we hosted a meeting with the game time reps about the inclusive play at phase 5 of Kings Estates. So that's potentially information we could have used because that information came across from Memorial Park. Like if we don't get what we need at phase 5 Kings Estates, then we could potentially, focus our energy on getting it to Memorial. And then of course the community meetings that we held here for the Parks Master Plan, that would suffice to say we've talked about these types of projects and what people would like to see at the community park. So, but yeah, I'd like to be able to kind of do outreach. I think you guys have done that in the past for Athwal Park and the skate park. So it'd be the commission kind of going out there and gathering information or taking some surveys out there. So we can definitely do that.
Awesome. Any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Next one is future agenda items. Any future agenda item?
From you guys, from the commission, if you guys have anything.
Something I was thinking about is the water fountain at Downtown Park.
Okay.
Updating that little thing, kind of like how we have this one downtown. It always squirts on my kids. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay.
Or Liam's, yeah. So it turns into a waterfall there, but yeah, that one's been on my mind, and stuff. So if that's something else.
Just Downtown Park.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, Memorial, like a water fountain over there would be good, but just kind of like as I'm in town and stuff, I feel like that one's not updated like our other one downtown and stuff. I think one's similar like that where it has the water bottle and the dog one and then the middle one. I think those ones are great. Yeah.
I'm gonna put it down as water fountain inventory and update so that I can update you on all of our water fountains.
Okay.
Okay, and then you guys can pick and choose whether they need to be, because Memorial Park gets me every time. kind of like an old cement
Yeah,
thing.
maybe, yeah,
Um,
that's right there.
And then Athwal Park, it has a runoff that kind of goes into the playground, so the water doesn't necessarily make it where it needs to go. But that I can do. So this way you can at least know where all the water fountains are, and then if I can include
That would be
photos of
good.
all of them, then you guys can.
Yeah, this one, because we're always at that one, and Liam he's very close to putting his mouth on that. Don't do that.
Does it have a? It doesn't have a dog bowl.
It doesn't,
It
no.
doesn't.
But I always have my hand, I'm like, ah. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, but no, that would be great. Yeah, I think those are good
Okay.
because cool. Any other?
Well, and again, I don't know. Um, I was thinking about, I know there's a budget, right? That's part of the overall Kingsburg City. And this department has its own piece to that. But in the master plan, it talks about fundraising and bonds and different things. And so I'm just wondering if, one, we should figure out what this commission can do for potential fundraising and or corporate or any kind of fundraising efforts that either we can commit to or that we can get other people pulled into. Just anything to supplement these projects so that maybe there's a couple, like I know with the dog park, we got a lot done and we did a great thing. But there were a couple little things where it was like, nope, that was way out of our budget, or we'll have to go back and we'll have to look at that. And if we as the commissioners said, well, we raised $25,000 or $100,000 to supplement this, we could meet our own goals. And again, this is lofty, but I'm throwing it out there. I'm brainstorming. Like, what would you guys think about having either, I mean, there's not a lot of us, right? So I don't know that we need a subgroup as much as we put our heads together and create a development plan specific to our commission.
I like that idea. We did that for the skate park. We got some of the business involved on the special day, remember? And they gave like a certain percentage of
Oh yeah, I remember that.
the money. Yeah. So I
Okay.
mean, yeah, I would love to do that.
Okay, and I'm talking outside of Kingsburg too, on corporate foundation.
Yeah.
But we have to get to know those funders in order to do that. But I think it's doable.
So you might be asking what are the left and right limits of going out and seeking fundraising? Like, what is it the city will allow for the commission to do rather than, I mean, maybe they won't allow you to go door to door soliciting.
No, that's
Maybe
not what I was expecting.
developing so obviously that'd be on one end, and then developing corporate sponsor or partnerships with, organizations and foundations that will come in and support these projects.
And and here's the thing is that I understand, sorry, I talk with my hands. We don't want to overlap anything that any of the city's efforts, right? So, I obviously, you leading us or guiding us, we could say, here's our development plan, or you give us the guidelines and then we can then create our development plan
Okay.
for approval.
Okay, I like it. I know in the past they've discussed giving, or the commission received, I think you received funding from the council at one point, where they allotted X amount of dollars to the commission, and then you guys were able to use that to do something.
Take that too. We'll take that too.
Good idea. Good idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I get that in there too. I think you guys did like the horseshoe pits, the volleyball. You did the diggers at the downtown park and Memorial Park. So you had some funding, and it just gave you some free kind of leeway to kind of pick different projects that you wanted to. The water fountain would be great. Say, hey, we want to updo the water fountain, so we could go from there and use that funding for that. So, okay.
Unrestricted funding, but that aligns with all of the projects.
Okay.
So nothing like road, but more,
Okay. Okay. I'll do it.
Cool. Any other comments? No? No? Okay. All All right, so we will go ahead. Do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do we need to make a motion to adjourn? Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we'll adjourn the meeting at 6